The INFJ personality type is often described as rare, deep, and hard to understand. But underneath those traits lies something even more interesting: how their brain works. INFJs don't just think differently. They feel, sense, and react to the world in ways that set them apart from most other personality types. This unique wiring has led many INFJs to feel out of place. They move through life feeling different, even if they can't explain why. They might feel too sensitive, too intense, or too withdrawn compared to others. But what if those differences weren't flaws at all? What if they were signs of a brain that simply works on a different level? In recent years, more people have started talking about neurodivergence. This term includes conditions like autism, ADHD, and sensory processing disorders, ways of thinking and experiencing the world that don't follow the normal path. And while INFJs aren't neurodivergent by definition, their traits often mirror some of these same patterns. That doesn't mean INFJs should label themselves with a diagnosis. It just means that their brain might be more similar to neurodivergent styles than they realize. And understanding that can bring comfort, clarity, and even pride. It helps explain why the INFJ experience feels so intense and so unique. This video explores how the INFJ brain mirrors neurodivergent patterns in 7 key ways. These aren't random traits. They're consistent ways of processing the world that line up closely with what's often seen in neurodivergent minds. By exploring these parallels, INFJs can better understand themselves. They can stop wondering why they don't fit in and start seeing the strength in how they think. They can learn to work with their brain instead of against it. And just as important, this conversation can build a bridge between INFJs and the neurodivergent community. There is value in all minds: linear, nonlinear, emotional, logical, fast, slow, quiet, and loud. Recognizing the shared patterns between types like INFJ and neurodivergent styles opens the door to better understanding and connection. Let's take a closer look at these 7 ways the INFJ brain stands apart and how it reflects the beauty of different thinking. Way number 1. Whole brain synchronization. One of the most unique things about the INFJ brain is how it works during deep thought. Researcher Dario Nardi, who studied brain activity using EEG scans, found something surprising in INFJs. When they are in a state of focus, especially when solving problems or reflecting, their brains light up in a way that's rare. All areas of the brain activate at the same time, working together in a pattern he described as whole brain synchronization. This isn't common. Most people use different brain areas at different times. Some are strong in logic, others are more visual or emotional. But INFJs, when fully engaged, use nearly all areas at once. It creates a kind of calm, focused state that looks like meditation, but with high mental activity. This kind of brain activity is strikingly similar to what's seen in some neurodivergent people, especially those on the autism spectrum or with ADHD. In those groups, researchers often notice unusual patterns of brain activation, either extremely focused or widely spread across areas not usually connected. The INFJ's brain, though not identical, shares that kind of non-standard processing. This helps explain why INFJs often feel like their thoughts don't follow a straight line. Their mind doesn't go from point A to point B in a simple way. Instead, it jumps, connects ideas from different places, and sees things others miss. Their insights seem to come from nowhere, but they actually come from everywhere at once. This whole brain mode makes INFJs especially good at big-picture thinking. They're often drawn to complex issues that need emotional, logical, and intuitive thought all at once. Whether it's understanding people, solving social problems, or working on creative projects, they thrive in areas where multiple layers are needed. But there's a challenge. Because this kind of thinking is intense, INFJs can get mentally tired faster than others. Holding all those connections in mind takes energy, and when their brain is constantly running in full gear, they need real downtime to recover. This also helps explain why INFJs often need time alone, not just for rest, but to let their mind process. While others might see this as being quiet or withdrawn, it's actually how their brain recharges and clears the noise. Another part of whole brain synchronization is the feeling of flow. INFJs often describe being in the zone when writing, planning, creating, or imagining. In that state, their thinking feels smooth and full. The ideas connect, the emotions align, and it all happens without effort. That's not just personality, it's brain function. This type of brain use isn't better or worse than others. But it is different, and that difference explains why INFJs often see things other people don't. Their brain is working in a wider, deeper way, and that leads to insight, creativity, and emotional clarity that feels almost instinctive. It's a reminder that the INFJ's quiet power isn't random. It comes from real, measurable differences in how their mind works. And the more they understand this, the more they can protect their energy, follow their strengths, and trust the way their thoughts naturally move. Way number 2, deep empathy and emotional sensitivity. INFJs are known for their empathy. They don't just understand how someone feels, they often feel it themselves. This kind of deep emotional awareness is more than just being nice or compassionate. It's a built-in part of how they experience the world. And in many ways, it mirrors what is seen in some neurodivergent individuals, especially those with heightened emotional sensitivity. For INFJs, emotions aren't just background noise. They're part of the room, part of the moment, and sometimes part of their body. When someone close to them is upset, they might feel it in their chest. When someone's happy, they might feel that joy like it's their own. This level of emotional tuning can be a gift, but it can also be overwhelming. Neurodivergent individuals, particularly some autistic and highly sensitive people, often describe the same thing. They walk into a space and instantly know the emotional tone. They absorb feelings, even when no one is speaking. And that constant stream of emotional data can lead to fatigue, overstimulation, or even burnout. INFJs often don't know how to turn it off. They sense when someone's lying, when someone's holding back, or when something's wrong, even if no one else notices. That's not imagination, it's perception. Their mind is built to read between the lines, and their nervous system responds to emotional shifts in real time. This sensitivity often makes INFJs the go-to person in a crisis. Friends trust them, strangers open up to them, but it also means INFJs carry a lot of emotional weight, some of it not even their own. To manage this, many INFJs withdraw. They seek time alone to detox from emotional input. They may cancel plans, go silent, or disappear for a while, not because they're upset, but because their emotional system needs quiet. Neurodivergent people with similar traits often use the same strategy. Another challenge is emotional overwhelm. When too much is happening, noise, stress, expectations, the INFJ's emotional radar can short-circuit. They may cry, freeze, or shut down, and this reaction is often misunderstood. Others might think they're being dramatic, when really, their nervous system is just overloaded. But this same sensitivity also gives INFJ something rare: emotional accuracy. They can describe a feeling with detail. They can name what others struggle to explain, and they can support someone not just with words, but with presence, because they're already feeling what that person needs. This power makes them incredible friends, counselors, artists, and thinkers. But it only works well if they protect it. That means setting limits, saying no, recognizing when they're full, and making space to reset. Because when they do, their empathy becomes not just a burden, but a gift, a way of bringing light, clarity, and calm into a world that often moves too fast to feel anything at all. Way number 3, intense focus on special interests. INFJs are curious, reflective, and often deeply committed to a few very specific passions. They don't just like certain topics, they immerse themselves in them. This isn't just casual interest, it's focused attention, lasting for years or even a lifetime. This kind of intense focus on special interests closely mirrors a well-known trait found in many neurodivergent people, especially those on the autism spectrum. A special interest is more than a hobby. It's a subject or area of fascination that feels deeply meaningful. For INFJs, this could be psychology, philosophy, writing, spirituality, social justice, or anything that connects to purpose and depth. They don't want to just skim the surface. They want to understand it fully, from every angle. When an INFJ finds something that resonates, they often lose track of time. Hours can pass like minutes. They read, study, write, plan, and imagine. Their mind becomes completely engaged, and during those times, they feel most like themselves. This focus isn't forced, it's natural. It provides clarity, and direction. It helps organize their thoughts and gives them a sense of identity. Many INFJs build their careers, personal projects, or life goals around these interests. Neurodivergent individuals often describe this exact feeling, the sense that their brain needs to go deep, that they're not satisfied with quick answers, that their passion gives them grounding in a world that feels scattered or overwhelming. But this intensity can also come with challenges. INFJs might struggle to focus on things that don't interest them. Tasks that feel meaningless or repetitive can be draining. They may procrastinate, zone out, or feel frustrated when forced to shift focus away from what they care about. This can look like distraction, but it's not about laziness. It's about brain wiring. Their mind is designed to connect emotionally with what they do, and when that connection isn't there, motivation drops sharply. This can cause problems in school or work environments that expect equal focus across the board. INFJs often feel misunderstood in these settings. They know they're capable, but only when their heart is in it. Without that emotional or intellectual spark, they feel out of place. That's why it's important for INFJs to build their lives around what truly matters to them. When their passion is aligned with their actions, they thrive. Their focus becomes a superpower. They create, lead, teach, or heal in ways that leave lasting impact. This focused energy also feeds their intuition. The more time they spend in their special interests, the more insight they gain. They start to see patterns others miss. They connect ideas in original ways. And what began as a personal passion becomes something that helps others too. INFJs should never feel guilty for loving what they love. Their special interests are part of their design, and the more they trust that focus, the more fulfilled and powerful they become. Way number 4, sensory sensitivities. INFJs may not always talk about it, but many experience heightened sensitivity to their environment. Bright lights, loud noises, strong smells, busy crowds. These things can quickly become overwhelming. This trait mirrors a common experience in neurodivergent individuals, especially those with sensory processing sensitivities. While sensory issues are often linked with autism or ADHD, many INFJs describe similar experiences. They may avoid loud concerts, fluorescent lighting, or crowded public spaces, not because they're shy, but because their nervous system becomes overstimulated. This sensitivity isn't a preference, it's a reaction. The INFJ brain processes sensory input deeply, just like it processes thoughts and emotions. A bright light isn't just a light. It becomes a distraction, a drain, or even a trigger for stress. A sudden noise doesn't just interrupt. It feels jarring, almost painful. These reactions can affect daily life. INFJs might avoid certain places, cancel plans, or feel exhausted after simple errands. Social events that include background noise, overlapping conversations, or flashing lights can leave them feeling mentally foggy or emotionally flat. Even clothing can be a factor. Some INFJs are picky about texture, tags, or tight-fitting fabrics. These preferences aren't about style. They're about comfort and nervous system balance. This hypersensitivity can also show up in more subtle ways. An INFJ might feel overwhelmed in a messy room. They may struggle to concentrate with too many visual distractions. They often prefer quiet, low-stimulation environments where they can think clearly and feel grounded. These are common experiences among highly sensitive people and many in the neurodivergent community. The connection is clear. When the brain processes everything deeply, it includes sensory data. Unfortunately, this is often misunderstood. Others may call the INFJ too sensitive or accuse them of overreacting, but the reaction is real, and pushing through it only leads to exhaustion. That's why INFJs need to take their sensory needs seriously. Creating a calming environment, dim lighting, soft sounds, comfortable clothes, can make a huge difference in their ability to function and focus. Noise-canceling headphones, regular breaks, and quiet time aren't luxuries. They're tools for staying balanced. It's also important for INFJs to know they're not alone. Many people process the world this way, and there's nothing wrong with needing quiet, order, or calm. It's part of how the INFJ mind works, and part of why they're able to offer such deep presence to others. Sensitivity is often seen as a weakness, but in reality, it's a sign of depth, a brain that doesn't ignore the world, but feels it all. And with the right tools, that sensitivity becomes one of the INFJ's most powerful traits. Way number 5. Nonlinear thinking and pattern recognition. INFJs rarely think in straight lines. Their minds don't move from step 1 to step 2 to step 3 in a predictable path. Instead, their thoughts move in spirals, loops, and flashes of insight. This kind of nonlinear thinking is not only typical of the INFJ, it's also commonly seen in neurodivergent minds. Rather than focusing on isolated details, INFJs tend to zoom out and look at the whole picture. They might take in bits of information from different places, past memories, emotional clues, alls, abstract ideas, and connect them into something meaningful. They do this automatically, without needing to follow traditional logic. This is why INFJs are often able to predict outcomes, see what's going unsaid, or understand complex emotional dynamics. Their minds are always scanning for patterns, and those patterns help them read situations with remarkable accuracy. This trait is often misunderstood in school or work environments that reward step-by-step, rule-based thinking. INFJs might struggle to explain how they arrived at a conclusion because it didn't come through traditional reasoning. It came through an internal process that's hard to explain. Many neurodivergent people describe the same experience. They don't solve problems the way others do, but they still reach answers, often in more creative or efficient ways. Their thinking style may be scattered on the outside, but is deeply organized on the inside. This non-linear approach also feeds into the INFJ's love of symbolism and metaphor. They think in images, stories, and meaning. They're drawn to poetry, philosophy, dreams, and patterns in human behavior. These interests aren't just hobbies, they're part of how their brain processes the world. Because of this, INFJs are often misunderstood as too deep or overthinking. But what they're really doing is decoding life. They're tracking the connections that others overlook, and those connections lead to original insight. This also makes them highly creative. Whether they write, teach, lead, or design, their work reflects a mind that sees more. Their ideas often challenge the norm, not to be rebellious, but because their path to truth is rarely straight. But nonlinear thinking can have its downsides. INFJs sometimes struggle to explain themselves clearly. Their ideas can feel too big to break down. They may jump ahead in conversation and lose others who can't follow. And they may feel frustrated when people demand a logic that doesn't match how their mind works. Still, this way of thinking is a gift. It's what allows INFJs to find meaning in chaos, clarity in confusion, and direction when others are lost. It's not wrong, it's different. And in a world that values straight lines, INFJs show the value of curves. Way number 6. Challenges with executive function. NFJs are often seen as wise, reflective, and insightful. But many INFJs secretly struggle with something that seems at odds with those strengths: executive function. This refers to the brain's ability to organize, plan, manage time, and follow through with tasks. And for many INFJs, this is a quiet struggle that mirrors the challenges often seen in people with ADHD or other neurodivergent conditions. On the outside, an INFJ might seem calm and collected, but internally their mind is often racing. They may have big goals, detailed visions, or strong values, but feel stuck when it comes to taking action. Starting a task, staying focused, or completing things on time can feel harder than it should be. This isn't because they don't care. In fact, INFJs care deeply. That's part of the problem. They want things to be done right, with meaning, and in alignment with their vision. But that level of emotional involvement can make simple tasks feel heavy. It's hard to start when it doesn't feel perfect. INFJs also tend to overthink. They might replay ideas in their mind for hours or days, trying to plan the best way forward. But while this thinking is happening, no action is being taken. The result is often guilt, frustration, or self-doubt. These patterns are common in people with executive function challenges. Neurodivergent individuals with ADHD often describe a similar cycle. Lots of ideas, poor follow-through. High intelligence, but trouble managing deadlines or staying organized. It's not about effort, it's about how the brain processes time and motivation. INFJs can relate. They often struggle with time blindness, the sense that time is either too slow or too fast. They may lose track of hours while focusing on something important, or freeze when the clock starts ticking down. To manage this, many INFJs use systems, journals, to-do lists, alarms, or quiet routines. These tools help them anchor their thoughts and create structure. But even with systems, they may fall behind when emotionally overwhelmed or creatively stuck. Another challenge is switching tasks. Once an INFJ is deep in thought or a project they care about, changing gears feels disruptive. They prefer long, uninterrupted time blocks to stay in their flow. But life rarely allows that, and the constant start-stop rhythm of daily life can feel exhausting. This is why INFJs need to understand that their executive function struggles are not signs of laziness or failure. They're signs of a mind that works differently, one that needs time, space, and emotional alignment to function at its best. Instead of forcing productivity in a traditional way, INFJs can work with their rhythms. Break tasks into smaller pieces. Start before they feel ready. Use external reminders. Build routines that reduce decisions. When they stop blaming themselves and start supporting their brain, they move more freely. And they realize that the struggle to act isn't weakness. It's just a signal to find a better way forward. Way number 7. Social interaction preferences. INFJs are often described as introverted, private, or even mysterious. But beneath those labels is a specific social pattern that mirrors what many neurodivergent people experience. A strong preference for deep, meaningful connection over casual interaction. INFJs don't avoid people. They avoid shallow interaction. Small talk, group chatter, or surface-level relationships drain them. It's not that they don't care. They care too much. And their brain needs connection that has depth, honesty, and purpose. This is very similar to how many neurodivergent individuals feel in social spaces. Whether it's due to sensory sensitivity, emotional intensity, or a different communication style, they often feel uncomfortable or out of place in traditional social settings. INFJs can relate to that deeply. They might enjoy one-on-one conversations, but feel lost in group dynamics. They may love people, but only in short doses. And they often need long recovery time after social events, even ones they enjoyed. INFJs also think a lot before they speak. They process interactions deeply. They replay conversations in their head. They worry about how others felt, what they missed, or what they could have said better. This reflective style slows down social engagement, making it harder to jump into fast-moving conversations. These tendencies can make them seem quiet or distant, but in reality, they're just cautious. They want to connect in a way that feels real. And until they find that space, they'd rather stay quiet than be fake. Many INFJs describe feeling like outsiders, even in social groups. They may be well-liked, but not fully known. They often say, "I feel like people like something about me, but they don't see me." That emotional distance is painful, and it mirrors the social disconnect many neurodivergent people face. But when INFJs do find their people, the connection is strong. They open up. They become warm, animated, and expressive. Their loyalty runs deep, and they invest fully in those they trust. They're not antisocial, they're selective. This is a key part of their aura. People often feel a pull toward them, but can't quite get close. That space isn't coldness, it's protection. INFJs guard their inner world carefully. And once someone earns their trust, that connection becomes one of the most meaningful they'll ever have. This social pattern comes with both strength and struggle. INFJs may feel lonely, even when surrounded by people. They may crave connection, but feel too tired to reach for it. They may love deeply, but find themselves retreating when it gets overwhelming. Understanding this pattern helps them stop blaming themselves. It helps them choose relationships more wisely. And it reminds them that needing space doesn't mean they're broken, it just means they're built for depth. The INFJ brain is wired in a way that sets it apart. Not better, not worse, just different. And the more we learn about neurodivergence, the more we see how closely INFJ traits align with it. through their thinking patterns, emotional sensitivity, social needs, and the way they experience the world. These 7 ways show that INFJs often live in a space that blends intuitive depth with cognitive difference. Their brain works in loops, not lines. Their heart feels in ways few can match, and their energy flows in bursts, not constant wave. This isn't a disorder. It's a different rhythm, one that deserves understanding, not just from others, but from the INFJs themselves. Because too often, they blame their struggles on not trying hard enough, when the truth is, their brain simply needs a different kind of support. By recognizing these patterns, INFJs can stop fighting who they are. They can build systems that work with their mind instead of against it. They can honor their need for space, depth, quiet, and purpose. And just as importantly, they can connect with others who live and think in similar ways. The line between personality and neurodivergence isn't always clear, but what's clear is the value of every kind of mind, and the power that comes from accepting how yours works. If you're an INFJ, your brain is not broken. It's just built for something different. And the more you trust that, the more you unlock its strength.